Trinity Special, issue 1. The main thing we'll talk about is the news story by Tom King and Daniel Sempier. What this actually is, though, in totality, is a reprinting of the backups from the last 3 issues of Wonder Woman. So you've got like the stuff where it's she's being babysit, the last of which was the kangaroo race, which I think was just this month's issue, wasn't it?
It was. It was the last issue.
Yeah.
So.
It was very, very, very recent. So that's the first half of this book. And then we get to the news story, which is basically just this mirroring of kind of like after Diana had won her trials, the test to see if she could, deflect a bullet with Hippolyta shooting the gun. We see that mirrored in the future with Diana loading a gun and wanting to fire it, or not wanting to, but like, Lizzie being the one who has to prove herself and deflect it. And the idea being that both Diana and Hippolyta, as they're the ones loading the gun, are really trying to talk them out of this, because if they don't deflect it, then they're in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Yeah. It's basically, I think more than anything, it compares the motherhood of Diana and Hippolyta, but more importantly, I think it displays the mirror image of the determination of young Diana and young Lizzie, who are both like, no, I can do this. I'm ready to prove myself.
Knowing what Wonder Woman went through, knowing what Diana went through, she's a bit more hesitant. And then you look back at now Diana knows what Hippolyta was going through. Because what Hippolyta went through to become the queen, and it's just these things where you think you're this young, headstrong person and you know everything, but on the other side of that is someone who cares for you, that knows you're capable, but, not that they want to prevent you, but they just want to make sure you're ready. And there's a line that Lizzie says about being older than Diana, right? Or Diana tells Lizzie that I was older than you were now, along those lines. And then Lizzie responds to her and is like, yeah, but then when I get to your point, I'll be older and more wise, or I'll be younger and more wise than you were.
It's really confusing to say it out, but just to try and clarify what you just said there. She's saying that because she's already more advanced at an earlier age, that by the time she's Diana's age, she'll be even wiser than Diana is at this point. So she's saying that she's better and she'll always be a little bit better.
Right. And that's because, and I took that as sure, it seems like she's seeming snotty, right? But to me, that's also her telling Diana how good of a job she did.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
And it's also looking in the meta, narrative with Tom King and what this is saying about parenting, right? Is that to be a great parent, you got to prepare your kid. You can't just hold them back, right? And so just the idea that, Diana doesn't want her to become the next Wonder Woman, not because she doesn't want to be usurped, but because she doesn't want to lose her kid. And it all, for the small, was it 3-4 page story? Or more than that?
I mean, it's not a lot. It's maybe 6 pages, but
it was pretty resonating. It's a lot of pretty good storytelling.
It's 5 pages. It's 5 pages.
Okay.
And you don't, the story ends with a gun firing. You don't get to see the payoff to it, which I think is just a nice little because we know that they're going to deflect the bullet. And then after that, it's just a reprinting of the first story with Trinity, which was the one that came out before the Wonder Woman run started. I think it was from issue 800 probably. That just kind of like showed you like John and Damien waiting on the beach for her, and it was them getting into the caves, basically to get to the Sovereign. And I'm only bringing this up because it's actually very interesting reading this now that we've read 4 or 5 issues of Wonder Woman, because now we have better context for what she's here for, and she's here to hear the Sovereign's story, specifically of her, right? She wants to hear her own story from the Sovereign's perspective. So this sets up why they're, because I think back in issue 3 or whatever it was, where we saw they were in a jail cell and he was telling the story, I think we sat and talked about, why is she in a cell with him? And it was actually in this. She came to see him. It's not that she's locked in a cell with him or anything. It's just this.
Spaced.
All of this had kind of left my brain. So it was kind of nice being reminded of this. I didn't read it fully, don't get me wrong. I sort of skimmed through it again and just sort of read the last couple pages. But
there are things now looking back at when he uses us, right, instead of me.
Yeah.
That are very curious. going forward to with the Sovereign. And then his last line is, "This is the story about how your mother defeated me." But we know that this man lies, right? So like,
I mean,
it adds this whole new sheen of storytelling to it.
Well, I think what's more important there is that he does always refer to the Sovereign himself as we, as us, because he always sees it as this lineage where he represents, one of the line. So it's very interesting as he uses the word. I think that's the first time we've ever heard him say something in first person like that.
Yeah.
The first time he's ever said me, singular. So I think it's very interesting to see, like, how maybe over the course of the story as he's battling Wonder Woman, where it maybe gets more personal to the point where he starts thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious, but...
and the other stuff that stuck out, too, from reading all the backups is how she refers to Damian and John as her brothers. And the way, not just like, how Bruce and Clark refer to each other as brothers, but she, like, these are her actual big brothers. And so when she, gets them to do essentially these trials where John has to go through pain and Damian is in this, unwinnable battle, and she even tells the Sovereign, "I need to be quick because I have to go rescue my brothers." It adds to her character there too,
I will critique the issue as a whole, though. I think it's kind of a weird proposition because it's an expensive book that is largely reprinted material of stuff that anyone who cares about Trinity has already read. Because, like, if you're reading Wonder Woman, then this has 5 new pages in it. If you're not reading Wonder Woman and you're tempted by this, then you go and buy Wonder Woman, perhaps. Maybe you buy the first trade when it comes out. You're going to get a lot of this material again, sort of sprinkled throughout that.
Yeah.
So I do think as a proposition, this special is really weird. Because it's not like it can't... Because all of it's pretty much backups in Wonder Woman itself, it's just kind of weird to me. Because normally when they do this thing where they'll say, hey, we're going to reprint these 3 issues as a one-off special, it's usually to catch people up so they can jump straight into issue 4 or 5 or the new arc or whatever's coming. This doesn't really function like that. You still have to go back and read issue 1 through 5. So, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, other than just an excuse to have a new cover to sell to collectors, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and there's a really nice Doc Shaner cover, and there's a really nice Garrett's cover. So, like...
Okay, multiple covers to sell to collectors.
Yeah, but those are also incentive covers, right? So that's also them playing this with the comic stores, Because the Garrett's is a 1 in 25, and the Shaner is a 1 in 50. So just to get one of those, the shop would have to order 50 of these that are kind of redundant. So
that's why they charge people a fortune for those issues, because you're basically covering the price of ordering all those other issues to get that one.
Yeah, so that said, that Tom King story with Sam Pierre on the art was 5 pages. Was very, very resonating and emotionally moving.
It was good for 5 pages, but it's still just 5 pages.
But it's not worth $1 a page. Right? It's not worth $1 a page. So
it's a bit scummy, okay? I'm just going to call it what it is. It's a bit scummy. Maybe it's good as a teaser if you know someone who's not read any of it and you're like, hey, you interested in this maybe? But the funny thing is, though, is that the first half of it is the backup, so even just because they like that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to like the main Wonder Woman story. They might find that they don't like how that's written compared to the backups. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. All of it's just a bit weird to me as a proposition, but hey, we both read it, so...
Yeah. And I really love Lizzie as a character. She's just through that story and then rereading The Sovereign. She has a wit to her that I really like that makes her stand out. And she really, in comparison with Damian and John, who have this, we already know what their rapport is like. She fits in very well as this next generation, of the biological kids of them. And I'm still not even sold that Lizzie is the biological daughter of Diana. I'm still waiting for a thing.
Yeah, to be fair, you used that word. DC have not used that word. You threw in the word biological.
Well, because John and Damian are both, right? The biological sons of Batman.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman herself was made out of clay in a lot of interpretations, so she's not necessarily biological to Hippolyta. So it would thematically make sense that her daughter would also be someone who's not biologically been created. So
of course. I'm just saying, like, she fits in with that generation, very, very well. So I'm curious to see when all is revealed where this all stands.